Tonight, Chris Archer, he was placed on the 10-day IL with shoulder inflammation. His season might be over. We don't know. If it does, if his rehab goes okay, he could potentially be back in sometimes in September. All right, big news for the Pitt Panther football team over on the south side. Johnny Patrician, remember this guy, Paul? It was down to Penn State, Pitt, and Patrician chose Penn State. He's had a couple injuries over the last few years up there, and he decided to leave the program. Now he's coming to Pitt, and he'll be eligible immediately because he is a graduate transfer. So he is going to Pitt. Pat Narduzzi made that announcement today. And other big news today, Billy Guerin. He's off to Minnesota to become the GM of the Wild. He was the assistant general manager here since 2014. After retiring from the Penguins, he took a coaching job, a developmental coaching job with the Pens, then became assistant GM, helped out with Wilkes-Barre, was the head GM for that team, and then assistant GM for the Penguins. Now he's off and gets his first shot at being a general manager in the NHL with the Minnesota Wild. So give us a call tonight. 412-575-2600 is the number. We're talking about the Buccos. We could talk about Billy Guerin if you want, or the Steelers. The Steelers have their third preseason game. It's kind of their dress rehearsal game. It's the third game of the preseason, and it's the most important game of the preseason for the Steelers. You'll see the first team, maybe Ben Roethlisberger play 15 to 20 snaps is what I heard, but we'll hear more of that coming up when Mike Tomlin has his pregame press conference. Paul, so we'll take some Pirates phone calls right now because we're jam-packed with Bucco calls. Let's go out to Pete in Squirrel Hill. Pete, I love you, man. What's going on?
Man, Rich, how you doing tonight?
Good, thanks for calling.
Rich, I didn't see Pompey on home plate. I was watching the Dodger game. Sandy Koufax is in his usual box right next to the dugout. The great.
Yeah, well, Pomp is the Sandy Koufax of Pittsburgh, right there behind home plate.
In what Hall of Fame is he in?
He is in the He's in the Beaver County Hall of Fame. He is in a Hall of Fame. I don't know which one it is, but I know Pomp. He might be in a couple Hall of Fames.
That's a great comeback, my man. Hey, Rich, about the Pirate announcers, I'm going off the beaten path a little bit here. About PNC Park. Rich, I was a union iron worker. I worked on PNC Park for 1 year. If you go to the International Association of Architectural and Structural Engineers website, PNC Park gets 3.5 out of 5 stars. Rich, it was built on the cheap. It cost $250 million to build. When new ballparks built at the same time cost $390 million. Okay, so regarding structural integrity, okay, it fails across the board. There's only 3 parks in baseball to get 5 stars: Dodger Stadium, Oracle Park, and Safeco Field in Seattle, because they are built with known as seismic code. They will never fail if there's any type of event. PNC Park would crumble if a truck backfired. Thanks. Now I'm going to make more enemies, but I just wanted to put that in there.
Hey, Pete, that's another great stat. You call in with all the good stats, Pete. I appreciate it.
What the hell does that mean?
I don't know. He's just telling me he had some good insight on the steel that they used to build PNC Park. It's still a fantastic ballpark. You got to love the view. That's the nicest thing about the ballpark, seeing the city. You know, I would just go hang out there for half an hour just to see the city.
Richie, that call shouldn't have made it past like 15 seconds or 20 seconds.
Pete from Squirrel Hill is tremendous.
I always
take
talk about the architecture of a PNC Park.
Let's go.
Well, meanwhile, they're getting blasted every night
well,
over there.
You got to look at something.
We got
a
manager. We got a manager who tonight had to answer questions about his job security. We got a general manager who's
and how about that? I mean, he's not worried about his job security.
Talking about simulating 10,000 games. I mean, we got all this
Let
nonsense.
me ask you this right now. If this was any other management team in the country, obviously this is the best management team in the country, right? Isn't that what the quote was?
Yes.
If it was any other management team in the country, professional team, someone would have been fired by now, right? Any other team, any other league, there would have been someone fired.
I think that yes, maybe. I mean, there's something to be said about not firing guys in the middle of the season. I don't know what the value of it would be.
What's the worst that could happen?
Well, but what's the value of it? Why not just wait till the end of the season?
Maybe you get some fans that you might get people back on board saying, hey, you know, they're trying to do something. Maybe they are trying to win.
Do you really think it was Jeff Bannister or
well, some fans might
Joey
buy
Cora,
into it.
If they announce tomorrow Joey Cora is going to be the manager for the rest, they might get 5 fans who decide they're going to come check it out. That doesn't help them. You got to understand the other thing about it. There's a structure in place. So if you fire guys during the regular season, you got to try and patch holes, this and that, and everything. Just let the season end, and guess what? The day the season, say the season ends on a Sunday, that Monday is Black Monday for a bunch of people, in the organization, and then everybody else is done playing, so there are a lot of guys that are available that you can go interview and go try and fill the holes deliberately and slowly, to make sure that you get the right people in place. I mean, I'm not a big fan of firing somebody, during the season or when the season's still going. I'm just not.
Well, this is the rational Paul Zeise. I expected you to go off and say, hey, everyone should have been fired yesterday.
Well, again, they all should have been, but here's the thing, you're stuck with them. Now, if you want to tell me that you want to move on from Neil Huntington right now, that's different. I actually think that's okay. I would actually be in favor. Yeah, it's get rid of him now because you can go find an executive. But more importantly, his role is really diminished until after the season anyway, so you don't really need a general manager right now. My point is the coaching staff and the general, the guys that are in that dugout, I say just leave them go until the end of the season.
Why does NHL do it? I mean, you see that all the time.
And you know what?
It just changes the environment of teams. Look what happened to the Penguins. They went on to the Stanley Cup after they fired.
Who won this year? They did it. St. Louis.
Yeah.
St. Louis did it this year. Same thing. I mean, but those teams fired those guys early enough that there could be an impact. I mean, what are we talking about? If you
Well, I mean, the season's over. We're not making an impact now.
So you fire Hurdle and you win 74 games instead of 71. I mean, who cares?
Let's go out to Bob in Clearfield. What's up, Bob?
Hi, gentlemen. Thank you very much. The Pittsburgh Pirates are kind of like supermarket tabloids. You know what they say about supermarket tabloids? If you believe it, we'll print it. And when it comes to optimistic assessment of the Pirates' future, the Pirates will always say, if you believe it, we'll say it to you. Now, as going forward to next year, they could probably going to have as many as 3 guys in that 12-man rotation coming off of Tommy John surgery. Nick Birdie, Chad Cole, Edgar Santana. There's under club control. If they have a collective ERA under 9, they'll be there all season. As far as the personnel moves in the front office, they might fire the guy who's currently 4th assistant vice president for non-essential operations, but you can rest assured, he said, any of the guys in the big 3, I would say, said, or big 4, they're still going to be there next year because they're still under contract. So
all right, thanks.
You, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. I appreciate it. I mean, if I was a betting man, Paul, I would bet that all 3 have their jobs next year.
I would bet that I have a hard time believing that Hurdle will be back. I mean, and I think Hurdle and Searage will be the ones that will fall on the sword or whatever, sacrificial lambs, whatever you want to call it. I actually think that there's no way you cannot make changes. There's no way.
I agree with you.
Look, if they do that, then they better get used to what crowds half of what they had tonight over there.
Will in McKees Rocks. What's up, Will?
Hey guys, how are you tonight?
Good. Thanks for calling.
Good. I was a season ticket holder over there for 9 years, and I gave them up this year because if they weren't going to spend money, I wasn't going to spend money. And now I hear that they're probably going to put something in place next year to where, with the Yankees and Red Sox coming, that the only way to get tickets to those games is to be some kind of a season ticket plan holder.
Just go on StubHub. I'm sure you could go down the day of the game and get tickets. When there are 13 games under 500 and out of it, I'm sure. Yeah, I do understand teams do that all the time, Will, and that's what they try to say if you want to get tickets off the Pirates, but you can get tickets off the secondary market.
Teams do that all the time, and
right?
It doesn't work, but one of the reasons they do that, is because they don't want to, I'm assuming one of those Yankee games or one of those Red Sox games will be on national TV, right? They don't want a national TV audience to see a stadium that's 3/4 full of Yankee fans. That's part of the reason they do that.
Well,
the other part of it is they're trying to maximize revenue. So, hey, you want a Yankee ticket? Good. You buy 4 other tickets to these other games.
Well, who actually started that around here was Steve Peterson with Pitt. Remember, if you wanted Notre Dame or Penn State, you had to buy the entire season. You had to buy season tickets, and I still think they do something like that. It's not a bad idea.
Yeah, I mean, but a lot of teams do that. It's not just, there are some things to criticize the Pirates for, and, in that case, there are a number of things you can criticize Pitt for. That's not one of them because a lot of teams do it.
All right, thanks. Thanks a lot, Will. I appreciate it. We got to take a break. Back with more of your phone calls. Some of your tweets coming up next. Stay right there.